walls that are really, really high, and it's hard to breach those walls. So when somebody comes along and tell them that, you know, I'm seeing a lot of signs of an unhealthy attachment style, they don't want to believe it because it's worked for them and it's actually been uh, their savior having those. Hello, my beautiful people. This is your certified life and relationship coach, Coach Court. And in today's video, I want to talk to you a little bit about how dismissive avoidants are handling being quarantined. But before I get into that, if this is your first time viewing me, a little bit of background about myself. I graduated in 2006 with my sociology degree. I received my life and relationship certification last year, and I've been working with the community for over the past 16 years. If you want to follow more of my work, visit my website, www.fruitfulseeds.com. Or if you want my help personally, reach out to me on either my website or you can leave a comment below on my YouTube channel, Coach Courtney Gatlin, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little bell to make sure that you're notified for all my newest content. How are dismissive avoidants handling this situation of being quarantined? Initially, they were probably elated to be able to be home, not be around people, rely on themselves because they value their independence, their autonomy, and being a kind of a lone wolf and being able to, in a romantic relationship, they are pretty self-sufficient. So they're the ones that are, they have a hard time adjusting to other people's needs, adjusting to their norms, and trying new things because what they know, they feel works and it's comfortable for them, and they feel like they don't need a whole lot of friends because early on in childhood, in their lives, they had to basically do everything for themselves. Their primary caregivers weren't there for them and weren't able to fulfill their needs the way that a healthy, secure attacher was raised themselves. Now, I'm not saying this was done purposefully. I always have to get, when I'm coaching my clients, when they realize, when the little bell goes off or the light bulb comes on, they're like, oh, I'm a dismissive avoidant. I don't want them to feel bad or feel any type of way about the person who raised them because, a lot of the times that was done not purposefully, because you only know, you don't know what you don't know. And however you were raised, most likely you tend to raise your children the same exact way. And we feel it's functional. And it's hard to break away from your norms because tradition is everything. So when I talk to dismissive avoidants and I'm coaching them and I'm telling them exactly, how their personality works, they kind of get a little bit sad and they get in a little bit of a funk because they don't want to believe it at first because it's their protection, it's their defense mechanism. They have dismissive avoidants have those walls up, and being able to cut and run in relationships and being able to not be vulnerable to people. So during COVID, this is actually something that they're actually enjoying. Later on down the line, they may start to get a little bit more irritable because, believe it or not, dismissive avoidants really do love that attention. They love that. They love the bond and the connection because it's one of the basic 6 human needs is love and connection. Tony Robbins talked about that. So later on down the line, they may start to feel it, or they may be the ones in the beginning that are the go-to people for the other people who are anxious attachers or even secure to go and confide in, because right away, a lot of people was having a hard time dealing with this and didn't want to believe that we have to be quarantined and basically under wraps for or staying indoors for, whatever amount of time it was in the beginning. I'm starting to lose count because it's really getting extended. So in the beginning, they were the ones who were the support systems for people. And later on down the line, they'll start to get a little bit antsy because, like I said, they need that attention and that connection that they have. And this is just a really tough time. Actually, dismissive avoidance, like if they can text you, if they can FaceTime you, that's something that they really enjoy because they have control over the amount of intimacy and closeness that they get to have, and they get to, or a person that's more specifically an anxious attacher gets to have to them because they're in control of the situation. Dismissive avoidance really like control. They really like to kind of give a little bit of themselves piece by piece and not do it too quickly. So in the beginning of when the quarantine started, they were, like I said before, they were loving it. And right now, they may be starting to feel it, maybe starting to get really emotional because when, if you look at this like breakups, dismissive avoidance, they don't feel the breakup in the beginning. In the beginning, they feel relief. They feel like, I finally get my freedom back. This is something that I really enjoy. So if they're like not living with their significant other, if they're living with their significant other, they're probably losing their mind right now because that closeness, that intimacy, and not being able to have their freedom as much as they want, they're probably going stir crazy because if they're in a household with somebody who's an anxious attacher, anxious attacher may be all up in their face all the time and constantly wanting to talk and constantly craving that intimacy. And for dismissive avoidant, they want to be able to control the amount of intimacy, And right now, nobody has control over this intimacy. I talked in my other video, which I posted on my YouTube, which is how are anxious attachers handling this situation, which I basically stated that, anxious attachers like control, and who doesn't like control, to be honest, but it's a different type of control. Anxious attachers like to kind of like manipulate and control their partner's thoughts, and because what anxious attachers like, they like that certainty. They like being able to know that their partner's not going to leave them and they're not going to abandon them or dismiss their feelings like their primary caregivers did when they were young. So dismissive avoidance, on the other hand, they are losing control in another way, meaning, I can't leave the house and go hang out with friends like I want to. And a lot of dismissive avoidants don't have a ton of friends to begin with, because they really like their independence and their secrecy. So right now they're struggling. And how can we handle this as dismissive avoidants? I guess stay active. Get out. As a dismissive avoidant, you want to get out and stay active and work more towards on communication. If you're feeling overwhelmed with somebody talking to you and communicating with you, kind of push yourself a little bit to tell them, say, hey, I'm not really feeling talking right now. I'm not really feeling communicating right now. Instead of just cutting people off, because that's what dismissive avoidants like to do. And it's a defense mechanism. They'll just cut people off and not communicate with them anymore. You see a lot of them ghosting people. So really communicate that, I need my space right now, and, the people that are growing as dismissive avoidants, they're really good at doing it. They'll say, I need my space. This is what I need. And that's actually really evolved as a dismissive avoidant, because they don't want to talk about their feelings, and they don't want to get intimate, and they don't want to talk about, how they're feeling, because it's uncomfortable to them, because they're not used to it. They didn't have that as a kid. And when they did try to do that as a kid, or even in their past relationships, they just was met with disappointment and rejection, as like somebody dismissing what they're saying or completely shutting it down. So Try to push yourself in that way. Uh, this will help the person that you're with a tremendous amount, because it soothes their anxiety. If you're in with the anxious attachment, it soothes their anxiety, and it'll also give them that level of, believe it or not, you might not believe it, but it'll soothe their storm that they have at the moment, and get out and get active, like I said before. And that's all I have. If you guys have any more questions, if you want to know more about your style, please reach out to me. My website, www.fruitfulseeds.com. And if you feel this video of any value, please like, comment, and share. I love you guys, and as always, namaste.